absence?
It is.
And you are able to profit by this to pursue your work?
Yes.
I suppose in time you aim to make a comfortable living from the sale of your poems?
So far, I must confess that I have been more concerned with making the poems than a comfortable occupation.
It must be a demanding occupation.
Totally demanding.
I imagine it must call for a very single-minded kind of life. Writers are notoriously thoughtless people when it comes to the more practical affairs of the world. Of course, it is all very well for those in possession of an adequate private income. But even poets need to eat and dress and keep a roof over their heads. A poet would be unwise to embark too soon on matrimony and all its attendant responsibilities, for instance. Mrs. Dilk has been telling me of some of the financial storms that poor Mrs. Hunt has had to weather. You've never thought of returning to your original profession?
Only the most desperate necessity could force me to reject my life of poetry.
People do sometimes alter course successfully more than once in their careers. Take your brother, for instance. He is so far from his roots and beginnings, but I feel very sure that he will do very well. Have you had any more news from the American settlement?
Not since the letter I last mentioned.
What a great joy it will be to you all when the baby is born. Just fancy, the first member of the next Keats generation will be an American.
Well now, John, what can I do for you? I'm heavily engaged today and I haven't much time to spare you. It's all very well for you young fellows without settled occupations. Why, for you, time is nothing more than an interval for occasional verses. I suppose it's too much to expect that you've come to any sensible decision about your future.
I have come to ask if I may have an advance on Tom's estate.
Tom's estate? Already? Why, you've wasted most of your home and now you're anxious to set about squandering your share of your brother's. What you want, young man, is not capital, but a steady source of income.
That I know very well, but in its absence I have urgent need of some capital. Can you give me any idea of when I may be able to draw on some money?
There may be some difficulties in the way of releasing funds from your brother's estate before your sister Fanny comes of age.
Before she comes of age? But that's not for another 6 years. Tom's illness involved me in various expenses and the loss of much time. I do not regret a penny nor a minute of it, but I am entitled to expect due compensation from his estate.
Entitled is a serious term in the law. Your sister, who is still in my household, in my charge, my responsibility, also has her entitlements.
But I don't see how it can possibly affect my sister's interest adversely if I draw on my share of Tom's money now.
It may not. Indeed, it may not. But the law must decide. And the law must be given time to take its course, which is often a slow course, as you know already.
I have urgent need of this money, Mr. Abbey. I shall look to you to see that this affair is hurried along and speedily brought to a successful conclusion.
And I shall do my best for you, as I've always striven to do, in accordance with the duty that I also owe to your brother and your sister. But how will you ever stay solvent unless you provide yourself with a regular income?
Why, Mr. Keats, I had not expected you today. Please sit down. May you take a glass of whiskey to drive the cold from your bodies?
I should like to, thank you. I acquired the habit while I was in Scotland.
Maybe, but the Scots didn't give you whiskey like this every day.
Scots never gave me whiskey like this.
And what have you done since I last saw you?
Less than I hoped. Make making such a slow progress with Hyperion. It's become more of a wearisome labor than a joy.
Perhaps it's because you began it under such unhappy circumstances.
No, I don't think so. I'm beginning to believe that I made too rational a choice of my subject and style. I was hoping to write an epic worthy to follow Paradise Lost. But now I don't know that my poetry can be created in the same formal pattern. I was so happy for it in the beginning. Oh. Something for you. Deep in the shady sadness of a vale, far sunken from the healthy breath of morn, far from the fiery noon and eve's one star, sat grey-haired Saturn, quiet as a stone. Still as the silence round about his lair, forest on forest hung about his head, like cloud on cloud. No stir of air was there. Not so much life as on a summer's day rubs not one light seed from the feathered grass, but where the dead leaf fell, there did it rest. A stream went voiceless by, still deadened more by reason of his falling divinity. Spreading a shade, the naiad mid her reeds pressed her cold finger closer to her lips.
It is beautiful. There is simply nothing more to be said.
That it is, but there are other beauties too. If only you knew the intolerable effort it took to produce them.
Could it be that you need a rest? That you've run sail?
Could indeed, and that is why I'm so pleased to be travelling to Chichester.
So, you're going to Sussex again. Why don't you write another poem while you're there? Something entirely less demanding and serious. A story in verse, if you like. Chichester's a beautiful old town. It might provide you with a setting.
Or would I ever be able to go back to Hyperion afterwards?
It would be like a test. It might help to show you your true direction.
Thank you for your advice, Dr. Jones. But do you think it would be too much to ask for you also to suggest a prescription?
A prescription, Mr. Keats. As you know, I'm a very great admirer of your narrative poem, Isabella. Not entirely because of the compliment contained in its use of my own first name.
I'm not so happy with Isabella now. It no longer pleases me.
But then you were always striving after perfection. For an ordinary reader is a lively, moving version of a fascinating old tale. Can you not think of another story of Boccaccio's to transform in the same way? Or an old story by another author? Or a new version of an old legend, perhaps? Let me think. Do you know the legend of St. Agnes Eve?
St. Agnes Eve? Why, yes. Of course.
Well, Mr. Keats, I think you had my idea.
It is already at work in my imagination. While I am away, I shall try to produce some works that will be far worthier than my poor Isabella.